So, welcome everybody to our 8 millionth edition of the Virtual Book Club. Uh, for July, we are going to be talking about Jodi Picoult's A Spark of Light. And I'm curious what everyone thought about it. I don't know if, do you guys want me to start? Do you want to start?
No, I want to hear what people have to say first.
Okay,
Okay, all
go
right.
ahead.
I'll go first since I have a big mouth, you know me.
Oh
I,
no.
yeah. Well, you're here now, Roseanne, so we can be together.
Okay.
I really, this book, I swear it kept me up at night because the topic of abortion has always been so, I'm just so, I get angry when I think in the States with the Republican Party, uh, 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 telling women, there's the senators and the laws passed in the different states telling women what they should do with their body. That has been a bone of contention for me for since this all happened. And I'm furious about it, furious that these old men sitting
It's
there.
women too. It's women
You
too.
Women too, yes, you're right, Roseanne. I'm sorry. I don't mean to say that they can actually turn to you and tell you what you should be doing with your body. That to me is beyond, beyond, beyond. Sometimes I say a woman that's a young girl that's even if she's raped or something. I mean, some of the states have there's no conditions. This is just what it is. She should have the baby. She should go to the door of the senator or a woman or anybody, ring the bell and say, here's the baby. You bring it up for the next 20 years. I mean, I know it's ridiculous. I don't really mean it, but it's just beyond to me. So that book started, that was the first thing, and then of course, I thought it was very well written. First of all, she didn't put her 2 cents in, the author. She just told it from all the different angles, which is really what journalism, what writing a book should be about, right, Katie? She shouldn't be taking sides or. And I thought she cleared up. She had every character had a different opinion, and I thought that was fair. You came from of somebody who tried to do an abortion by herself, and then she's the young girl, and then another one who was against abortion, and she herself had an abortion, and the doctor, and from every different point of view. And I just thought it was very, very, very well done, very interesting, very controversial, and very personal to everybody who read the book. I think so. Everybody, I'm sure we're all going to find out here what everybody thinks. Maybe be completely different from my view, completely different from your view, Katie. But I still say it is a woman's right to choose, and that's what it comes down to. I don't care about anything else. I also found the book was well written because it was written different in reverse. Like the chapters went backwards. I didn't understand that at first. It confused me a little bit. How come we're here when we were just here? And I thought that was a clever way of writing the book, how they ended up where they were at the end. And I don't know what else to say. I mean, there's so many things, with the detective whose daughter was there because she was there for birth control pills. Then he thought she was having an abortion, like all the little intricacies. And that father whose daughter, the killer, George, I think his name was, right? And why he was there. I mean, there was just everybody's different view and experience on this issue. And I found it was really a wonderful book. And I think people should read this book to become informed, to maybe not nobody foisted their opinion on you. You ended this book learning something and making your own decisions. That's how I felt. I don't know how anybody else felt.
Well, let's see
I
how
finished.
let's see how someone else felt. Roseanne, you said, by the way, hi Heidi, welcome.
Well, after the class, you can help me with the get it on my feet thing. Not during the class. Okay.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I love the fact that it went off counterclockwise. I thought
Yeah,
that was brilliant.
that's
Except I found that at the end it was just too, like she could have made the beginning shorter and the
Mhm.
ending a little bit more, because I found that it really it just
That
okay.
was so
George is Beth's father. Okay, because her name is really not Beth. It's really whatever Elizabeth or whatever. And she that it was all done in 2 pages. In 2 pages, everybody got connected, and I found that was a little bit much.
right.
I found that it's almost like an abortion. Quick. Did she leave her ideas? I think she had her ideas in the book. There's no question to me. I don't know. I would love to sit here, not you, but somebody else who is pro anti-abortion, to have read the book. It'd be interesting what their take would be. But I found that I felt like it was in the heat of the night. Like I don't know if you saw that movie, Katie, but I felt like it was well, Mississippi. What do you expect? uh,
Mm.
Middle
Oh,
America, Middle America, his Trump's
base.
Trump's base. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay, that's all right. Here we go again. It's going to be another thing about that. Although she never mentioned Trump. Um, the fact that there were
right.
mostly women out there. Interesting that you were the one who said the men are in the Senate, but meanwhile the women, as she made it very clear, 99% of the women out in demonstrating are women. That's
No,
the
Right.
thing.
I was
she actually said the opposite. She said she is in Jodi Picoult. The author
mhm.
said that
Yes, but
most of the demonstrators are white men.
that's right. But meanwhile, there
Yeah,
were women.
Of
There were
course,
women
there are two.
outside that one.
Yeah.
yeah, of course, there's women
That's
too.
only
But
women. They all have
when
mentioned is women. Women, women, women.
when
That's
I
it.
picture senators in the government, I picture voting. I picture men. I mean,
Well,
let's
yeah, but the
face
thing is,
it.
there are women senators. I wonder how many. What you know?
Yeah,
What? But I don't
there's
understand the
not
whole
as
thing. I
many,
don't
but that's
understand that. I don't understand that either. Like it's the same thing as with the immigrants. I can't understand how immigrants have voted for Trump because when he's so
right.
anti-immigrant. So
Right.
I don't
I
know. I don't know.
agree.
Anyway, the point is, I found I like the book. There's no question, but I would have liked to see what if someone who was anti-abortion would have read that book and their opinion, or a man like an opinion. It would be very interesting to hear what men had to say about this book
Mhm.
if they read it. Um, but for me, it was too stereotype for me. All of a sudden, this man who was such a good father, who was such a, I mean, it's true. There are people who are very good and go off the deep end and nobody can understand how they did what they're doing. There's no question. But it was too pat. It was like, oh, he went from the hospital. He had a flyer and he went straight to the thing. I'm killing everybody. I found that a little bit much. I said it too much, like it was too. And then the policeman was his daughter was 17, and he was one there, and he wasn't telling anybody that he was really involved. I don't know. I found it a little bit
It's
too
fine.
contrived. Thank you. But otherwise, the book was fine.
It's fu- I'm amazed a little bit. I'm just going to interject here that Roseanne, usually when Rona likes a book, you don't like it. I
Yeah,
can't remember.
exactly.
Like
I can't believe it,
this is one
Roseanne.
of
I
the
thought you
first
and I were
times
going to have a fist fight.
that you
You're
both
right,
like.
Katie.
Really?
When I saw she was on, I said, "Oh no!"
Oh no!
But at
I
least
didn't.
we're right.
So
Trump,
that's
you feel that
interesting
way
to
too.
me. That's interesting. Heidi, Carol, do either of you want to chime in yet?
Okay. I've had a hard time with this book. I found it a bit too long.
Mm,
Mhm.
There's certain other things that came up. You see, what happened to me at one time, my doctor suggested that abortion. I could never have an abortion. I can't even squash a bug
mm,
on the floor. On the floor. I mean, it's just against me. It doesn't necessarily have anything with religion, but being Catholic, it might have a little bit.
mm,
I mean, I brought up in a Catholic school, but I
Right.
don't think that's it. Um, what what I what I rejected a little bit that she didn't really talk about social problem. You see, I find women are not supported well enough, especially in the States.
Absolutely.
Women don't get the support in the society because there are okay, if you want to get rid of a child, maybe you can give it up to adoption or something. But adoption takes forever, you know. They cannot adopt very quickly, so the child is somewhere in limbo, and I can understand that it's difficult. So I found, you know, the whole social system isn't right for this. And I got really angry at the people that protest because it's none of their business, you know.
It's personal.
I found the book a really hard read. I
Okay.
read it actually quite quickly for a change, which I usually don't. And I found it too long.
Yeah.
I really found it too long. At the beginning, I said, oh God, what's going to happen at the end? And at the end, you know, really, you didn't find out much of anything.
Mm.
I agree.
And I found that was, yes, it was very interesting to watch, you know, and I got so tired, you know, you start at 3 in the afternoon and you end up, I don't know, at 7 in the morning. And I kept reading. It says, okay, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? So I found it a bit too long and
Mm.
too intricate, but it was interesting. I found a couple of things that were very interesting. For instance, why it was called The Spark of Life. Because, you know, there was an interesting finding, is if it's true. Oh God, the phone. You know, but I can't say I liked it particularly, but it gave me some information.
Mhm.
And, you know, I knew actually not that much about abortion, but I knew a lot about people that are against it. And as I said, personally, I could never do one.
Mhm.
But I can't say it was a real fun read.
I think personally, a lot of people can't do it, except if they find themselves at 17 years old or the kid at 14 comes home, Mommy, I'm pregnant.
Right.
What happens then? You know, that's the whole thing, is that what a lot of parents kick their kids out. So I know lots of people who've been, because unfortunately, my nephew's married into kind of thing like that. So people were kicked out of their houses at 12, at 14, at 15. They were kicked out of the houses because they got pregnant.
Mm.
And they,
You know
you
what
know,
I
I mean,
think?
it's just
I think
hard.
you say nobody knows how they're going to feel
That's right.
about it until they are in
Exactly.
that position.
Exactly.
You can
Exactly.
sit and say, and I understand, Heidi, what you're saying, and I'm not saying you're wrong or whatever, but if you are in that
Right.
position, and let's say you're 15, 16, who knows what, you're 21, you're 25, whatever the case may be, who knows what you're going to do. You can't say what you're going to do until you're in that position.
And
That's
it
what I
shows with her father, who didn't want to be a policeman. Here he was so smart, obviously wanted to be in NASA, a science, but he knew he couldn't do it because he got a girl pregnant.
Mm.
And
yeah.
that's what happens to a lot. I see that with my niece's family. They were all on welfare, all on welfare. She was the only one who managed to get out of welfare, but all because it's amazing.
Mm.
It's until you come up and you face the people who have grown up with it, you realize, oh
Exactly. The
shoot.
Well, like a
consequences,
lot
the
of situations
consequences.
in life, right? No
Yeah.
one, like, we all can think theoretically how we would behave in a situation. And then when that situation, if that situation actually presents itself, then sometimes we do behave in that way. And sometimes it turns out we don't. And that's how we
Exactly.
learn more about ourselves as well.
All you have
Um,
to think about is Oprah Winfrey. Imagine at 13 having a baby. You think
mm,
she would have
Yeah.
been Oprah Winfrey today
who knows?
and keep the baby? No,
We can't turn
we
back
can't
what we
really
can't
say.
see.
No, we can't.
Exactly.
No, we don't.
Sorry.
You're right.
Carol, what would you like to say?
Okay. Oh, okay. First of all, I couldn't get into this book. I tried a few times. It just, I know what the topic is for some reason. I don't know why. It just it didn't grab me. So then I started to read reviews of this book,
Oh,
very good reviews. I read other Jodi Picoult's books, but as far then I got the idea. I know what it's about, but it just didn't interest me. Then I started to read parts of it. But what's interesting about the topic of abortion. Do you know in Jewish law, you're not allowed to have an abortion unless the mother's life is in danger? Next, years ago, maybe, oh my God, how many years ago? Maybe about 40 years. No, how many years ago? Let's see, my son is 40, maybe 30 years ago. What happened was when you wanted to have abortion, because my friend wanted, you had to have 3 male doctors.
That's right.
Why? And what happens were the males decided what
That's
you
right.
should do, not the women.
Right.
Then my friends and I decided, why don't we decide what to do with our bodies? Well, I don't know, it's happened or it's not happened. And also there was a doctor, Dr. Morgenthaler, and he did abortions illegally, I think, for years and years. Yes, I know his daughter Goldie. I don't know what happened. I think his windows were smashed or something. Anyway, I don't know what happened if he stopped. Next, I want to read you something, the author's note at the end. Very interesting. I'm going to read you one sentence that this author herself made some notes of how she did it, and she interviewed a lot of people. And one sentence really struck me. It's this: laws, it's on page 363. Laws are black and white. The lives of women are 1,000 shades of gray, which I thought very, very revealing. So I just wanted to, my thoughts of abortion and the Torah, the laws of Jewish mother is whatever in danger, and this whole question of kids, getting pregnant, hiding from their parents is it's a problem. It happens today too, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. I know some parents will throw them out of the house, and also, yours that they had nuns. If you had an abortion, you went to the nuns and you hid there. Mm-hmm. Anyway, there's lots of things in the book. Maybe I'll try to read it again. But yes, I began to start reading it, and yes, it's a very interesting book. And yes, I have a friend that's total pro-life. And my idea is I think a woman should decide what they should do with their own body. Certainly not male doctors, as far as I'm concerned.
I know somebody who had to do that. I worked with someone, and she was so nervous about going. So because she had kids, and she had 3 kids, and she was working, and she said, I can't have another one. And so she had to go in front of 3 men, and she said she got in the room, started to cry hysterically because she was so flabbergasted, like that she was in this spot and screaming. So they didn't even ask her a question. They just signed the papers. But she said it was one of the worst experiences she's ever had in her life.
Well, Dr. Morgenthaler did this because women to try to abort themselves, and they died from an infection. So this doctor decided better do it in a sanitary place rather than have them to try something where they're going to get infections. So these doctors, now my friend it was her 3rd child, and she went to the doctors and she was ready to have abortion. When it came, she couldn't do it. This boy now is a big oncologist, radiologist, doctor, after all things. So just tell you, and my experience, a friend of mine, and that was it, that you had to go to 3 doctors at a hospital. Male.
You know what? I just want to say one thing, Carol, about Dr. Morgenthaler. He was brought to trial many times for performing abortions, but he was never found guilty. And he was really, he was responsible for decriminalizing abortions in Quebec.
I never could understand how he never was found guilty. He did do abortion.
He was never found.
But he
he
did
and
them. I don't know how he got I don't I you know I didn't
was
never I
never
was young.
convicted.
I never how
But
he got away with it.
he had you know, he really was responsible for decriminalized. I don't know everything, but I know that he was brought to court many
Yeah.
times. Ever.
His
Yeah,
life
it's
was
That's what
always
funny.
he
in
was
danger.
brought up from.
My introduction, well, one of my early introductions to the topic of abortion, I remember in high school, one of my teachers, a male teacher, um, and he taught history and sociology. And one of the things that he brought up was about how it doesn't really matter how you personally feel about abortions, it's that they're going to happen. And that
Mhm.
the important thing is that people stay as safe as possible. So if you can decriminalize abortions, it doesn't mean that abortions won't happen. It means that they'll go back to using coat hangers. And like that,
Can I just
like that
interrupt
image
one
was so I was like, oh my God.
Katie, I'm
Exactly.
going to tell you all something when you talk. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we had when I was 13 or 12 or 13, we had a woman, a cleaning lady in the house, and I came home one day after school, and my mother was in the bathroom with her. She had taken a hanger and tried to abort herself. I
Oh
was
my
there. I
gosh.
saw it, and my mother had to call nine. I don't know if 911 existed, and she went to the hospital. She was okay, but personally, I saw this. She was a French woman from I don't know where, and she came to work in people's houses, and she got pregnant, had no money. Her husband was somewhere. She already had 2 kids, and she actually took a hanger from our house and put, and
That's
so that is
terrifying.
true, 100% true.
Heidi, you were going to say something?
Oh, it was, you see, exactly, this is exactly the point. There's going to be abortions no matter what.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
they have been done for hundreds of years.
yeah,
Thousands. That's what she mentions in the book.
Probably,
Thousands.
really.
maybe she said thousands. My memory is not that good anymore. But you see, I find that the society doesn't give this because it's very difficult for a woman to make that decision.
Hmm.
You know, they might be in a terrible place, but mostly they're poor, they're having problems, and I think society isn't very helpful. A lot of them are not poor anymore, I know, and they just have other problems.
Well, and this brings us into like another conversation too about, of course, like again, women's lives and experiences and what society tends to value, right? And prioritize. And in the same way that like we can look at all social sort of care, mental health, etc., where we have this tendency as a society still in the Western world. And I mean, granted, sorry, I know I've climbed up on my horse. It's relatively high. So again, like social programs, we don't throw money at as a society. We give money to corporations, et cetera, et cetera. This is where the money goes. Whereas the social things like health services, like
Exactly.
physical health services, mental health services, services for seniors, for low income people, for people like we're not giving those things that like where all boats rise
Priority.
sort of thing. Minimum wage, like higher minimum wages, more support for independent businesses so that they can afford to pay staff minimum, like, like all of these things, that's not where the money ends up going for us.
And
But
especially not going for women either.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
Yeah.
you need
exactly.
a
And
healthcare system, you
like
know?
new arrivals to the country, to like new immigrants, like all of these sort of, you're right, the support is sorely lacking. I think that that is an excellent point to make,
That's right.
Heidi.
I find that all the publicity for this $50 million wedding that happened last week is is the
Oh my
is
God.
absolutely beyond me because I don't understand. In one newscast, they're telling you how they're going to slash education budgets, and the next one
Right.
they're $50 million wedding. Something it's our values. Something screwy. Everybody's interested in the $50 million wedding, but so they're going to take away from the education.
Well,
It's
what's
because
happening in
of
the
the
States
flashing.
now?
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
happening in the States now is like it's a different story, a different topic, but here is your perfect
I mean, I,
example.
I think
So
the
let's just sort of roll things back a little bit back
Yeah.
towards the book just for a
oh
minute.
yeah.
Just for a minute. It's interesting too that, I mean, this was written before Roe v. Wade was overturned, right, in the
Right.
States?
I noticed that. Yeah, yeah.
So, from what I'm hearing from you all, I'm going to talk a little bit about the book too. So, the I'm I'm interested to know that most of you, not all of you, but most of you were okay with the storytelling backwards
Oh, I love
because it is an interesting way to choose to tell the story. I personally did not love it,
oh,
but I sort of eventually got into it. Um,
Mhm.
and I agree also with what Roseanne said about it feeling a little bit pat, like the examples that she uses. So we've got, let's see, we've got Joy, we've got Janine, we've got Olive, we've got Ren, Izzy, Lil, we've got Dr. Ward, we've got Bex. Everyone's lives sort of intersect, right? We've got Beth in the hospital, whose nurse is Jayla, who Jayla is the person who Izzy traded shifts with, right? Like this
Mhm.
interconnectivity too. We have um, several different women's experiences with pregnancy and abortion. And all of those, like I would disagree a little bit with you, Rona, in saying that Jodi Picoult didn't have a platform here, that she wasn't getting across what, like, she definitely is, from my mind, she definitely came across as pro-choice. Because I am also pro-choice, that's full disclosure, then I kind of was okay with it. Well, I found it interesting that she tried. It felt like she tried to give the different perspectives with using Janine and George and their perspectives. However, I disagree also with you, Roseanne, saying that George was like this amazing father until because he had a lot of like he was never particularly likable, even though like when they talk about him being dishonorably discharged, and then they give the reasoning behind it because he was saving someone who was in the middle of being raped, like that's okay, that's great, and that's supposed to kind of make him more likable. And then we get to the reason why his wife left him was that he was experiencing an episode of PTSD and he was
Mhm.
choking his wife. Like this is like, and the reason behind that was because he thought she was the woman who he had saved from being raped, saying, "Why didn't you tell anyone?" And like again, it's this like the rage, like this and again, somewhat stereotypical, not necessarily unfoundedly stereotypical, but like that male rage that as women we've learned to sort of like be wary of and also to sort of put on everyone. Anyway, he was a bit of a stock character for me too because again, this is like the reason like his reasoning behind going to shoot up the clinic. It's like what if someone had gone in when your daughter was there? And then too that the daughter we find out didn't actually get an abortion there, and if she had, she wouldn't be in the hospital. You know, she
Yeah.
wouldn't be getting tried right now. She wouldn't getting prosecuted because she would have been going somewhere safe and legal, and because she wasn't allowed to because of the laws in place and
Right.
because of needing a male's like who in this like a parent's signature and she was too scared to ask him for it, which we learn he probably wouldn't have given it anyway, right? Then she went through these alternate routes, and while it wasn't a coat hanger, it was just as dangerous. Like this is there was definitely, I think, a political platform here that she was on, but I also think that what she was trying to do was to give so many different examples of why different people might go ahead, like might feel that that was their only recourse or feel like that was the best choice for them. And also trying to combat um, anti-abortion sentiments by giving the examples of like I grew up in the foster care system. So if there are so many people who'd be willing to adopt my child, then why wouldn't they? And then this other woman who like she got an abortion because she was violently raped. And this other woman who got an abortion because she knew that she wouldn't be able to be like it's like she was really using the like the I don't want to say easiest examples, but kind of like the easiest
They're
examples against
stereotypes.
anti-abortions.
We all know about those kind. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it's like
And I mean like telling it in the way that she did and like sort of rolling it back. So it was, I think like it's true that it was contrived for sure. It's fiction. So of course it's contrived. But it's also true that like the way that things were woven together and tied up at the end, it can leave us feeling maybe a little bit unsatisfied.
exactly.
Yeah.
Pat.
I felt the same way because I didn't like that she goes backwards.
Mm,
Oh, I like the
I
basket.
really didn't like
And
it.
I liked it
It
because
took me for ages. I said, "Oh God, this is going on and on. Why don't we, start from the beginning
no,
and
I liked
to
it.
the
But
end?"
if
And it was,
it,
but
that,
I
that's
never thought George was a perfect father. I don't think any of them, but
I didn't
except
say
Tim
perfect.
was
He was
was.
perfect. He was just a good one. He wasn't awful. She had good memories of her father. I'm just saying everything was very quick at the
mm,
but I like the idea of it going backwards because it was different. I've never read a book,
yeah.
and that
But
part's interesting.
Heidi, do you want to finish your thought?
Well, I just found the book not very satisfactory,
Mm,
basically. Personally, I did. Um, I don't, you see, I have a big problem with the Zoom here because Rona, I don't understand at all. I don't know anything she says, but I have a problem with my hearing, you know? I mean, for instance, I'm hooked on Coronation Street and it's getting so bad. I don't understand what people are saying because I don't hear well enough. And I have a hearing aid and it doesn't seem to work. And I don't want to get another $4,000 out of my pocket just to get another hearing aid that again doesn't work. So, but I have trouble when I'm on Zoom. I also have trouble when I'm on the telephone. So, I just find I'm losing it slowly. It's very frustrating. So I really don't understand Rona. I don't know why, because she talks very fast and she's very far away, it seems.
we
And
hear her very clearly, or I hear her
I'm
very
sure you
clearly.
do,
Yeah.
but I don't. And I
What
know
about me?
it's my hearing.
What about Roseanne?
And we
Roseanne,
can't
you
hear on
talk
the
too
phone.
fast.
Yeah.
But I do understand Roseanne most of the time. And I definitely understand Carol because she's slow. And but I mean that's my problem. Don't
No,
worry
but
about
be
it.
aware of that so that we'll do better. So
And
now
I'll
I'll
talk
use
slower.
my voice.
I'll talk slower.
We'll try and speak a little bit slower for you, Heidi.
No,
And
no, it's
you
not. It's not.
stay on with me afterwards and we'll talk a little bit about it. I might have some resources for you.
It's as I say, I just found the book frustrating.
Mm,
I found it interesting in some parts, but I'm pro-abortion, but I would never personally be able to have one.
mm.
I mean, basically, and I think that's the case with a lot of us.
I think I'm speaking for all of us now when I think that when I say I think that ship has sailed for all of us personally.
Yeah,
But
yes, definitely for me.
Maybe not for you, Katie. You never
oh
know.
no, that ship has sailed. My kids lately have been very eager for
Oh,
a little brother. And I was
Oh.
like, that's not going to happen. That is not
to
going to
Heidi.
happen.
Where's Heidi?
She's here.
Heidi, hello, it's me. Where did you get your hearing aids from?
A place down in Westmont. I don't know. I have to look it up in my file. You see, they decided my hearing is not that bad. I need only one, so I have only one. And lately, it just doesn't work. And
Mm,
because I don't have a car, I have no family. I have nobody who could drive me any place. I take the transport adapté everywhere, and so I don't know where to go, but I don't know if it works. It doesn't work. I changed the batteries and it still doesn't work. And I just give it up. Look,
No. Okay. One does not work. You need two. I don't care what tells anything.
uh,
You,
the
you
best,
need
the,
two hearing aids. And I don't know where you live. If you live in
really
Cote-Saint-Luc,
cote-saint-luc.
so at Cavendish Mall, there's a place called Maslia at Cavendish Mall.
I heard about them, and they're supposed to be quite good.
They're excellent.
Really?
Yes, yes. Go there and ask for Wendy. She's whatever she is, yeah, Wendy, and talk to her. I paid $8,000 for my new hearing aids, and they're fantastic. So,
I
and
bet if you pay $8,000 different.
no, you don't have
Doesn't
to.
Carol,
No,
doesn't
no.
the government cover
I
part of
wanted
that?
to do the Rolls Royce, but they're different. But she'll tell you, you have to have two hearing aids. Anyway, that's my advice to you.
Okay, thank you.
Carol, does the government subsidize part of that? Carol, does the government subsidize part of the hearing aid for her?
Yes, the government will pay for one,
They pay for one,
Okay.
yes.
but
That's the
but
one I'm wearing.
Yeah, but they don't
pay
You
go.
see,
pay
I haven't got time to
pay
study.
pay two
It's the other thing,
pay two
$8,000.
if you can pay 2,000 for the other one. I'm telling you, you need two hearing aids. I went for the Rolls Royce like a dope, but yes, you could have one, and I'm telling you, if if you pay for the other one, I don't know what it is. You will. I'm telling you, you'll be so happy. So go to Maslia.
To me,
Okay.
anyway, look, we're not talking about hearing
I
aids,
know, but I couldn't help
talking
it.
Yeah.
about the
Sorry.
book.
Okay, let's go
And as
with
I
the
say,
book.
I did
Okay.
read the book.
Sorry, I had to tell you
No, it's
something.
very good. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I know it's in the mall. Somebody else told me about it, but
It's good to
Yes,
get recommendations for sure.
yeah,
yes.
it's very I'm very appreciative.
So
Sorry, we'll take
now
back
we'll
the
bring it back
Okay,
to the book again, just for
that
another minute.
I, I,
Okay, no,
And
I
I'll say what Heidi was saying too about not liking it going backwards. And I said I didn't really like it. Like I didn't love it, but I can also see why she did it because and a lot of thriller type books will do something similar, though less structured this way. So here in A Spark of Light, we start at 5 p.m. and then the next section is 4 p.m. and the next section is 3 p.m. We keep rolling back an hour at a time. Whereas oftentimes a book will start right in the middle of the action. And and then it'll go start it kind
Yeah.
of closer to the beginning and then see what leads up to the action. And I think one of the reasons why authors use this tool is because it will grab the reader quickly. Like it makes you get into it right away. You're like, how did how did we get here? What how like you're immediately immersed in action, where as opposed to a slow start moving you there, you already have at least 1 yard mark to try it that you want to reach.
that I
Um,
agree with you, and I agree with you.
mm,
I that's what I liked about it because you get to
mm,
see that. Gee, they all started their day. I used to say that to kids. They had a big fight in the schoolyard, and or the father is in jail because he murdered somebody. And I go, do you think your father got up in the morning to go? Oh, I'm going to go murder somebody. It's
Yeah.
I like the idea that everybody just got up in the morning and at the end and you see that what led to what like led, but it's still it all just like
the
what
different
a
paths
moment.
that
It's
can
just a
lead
moment.
everyone to the same point. And that's it too, right? Is that I think that in situations like this, and again, this is a very fraught topic. People get very emotional about it.
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons why it's a really challenging one to discuss with people who are
Yes.
on opposite sides of the spectrum. Um, but one of the things that, again, I feel like Pico was doing here is that it's like if you were to find yourself in a situation like that, and a lot of the characters do this, they're like, oh, if only I had. if only I had done something
Yeah.
differently.
Yeah.
Right? Like Ren does that several times where she's like, why didn't I talk to my dad about this? Why did I
Yeah.
decide to? Why did Bex does it? Like everyone has this like questioning of like, if only they had done something differently, then they wouldn't have found themselves in that situation. But also inherent in this particular story is that we've got a large group of people who all started their days differently, who
Mhm.
all like went about they have different backgrounds, had different and like there's this hodgepodge, right? And they all wound up in this same spot,
Yeah.
in this same kind of
Well, true.
situation.
That's
Yeah,
life.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly that's life. And
I
we
used to say
can't
that to the
spend our
kids.
entire lives double second guessing everything.
I taught in Verdun, and every time I had a student teacher, I used to say, "Look," she said to me, "How come you have such a good rapport with the kids?" And I said, "Because every morning I listen. Because if they come up to me and tell me this, or I'm having a bad, they all come from different backgrounds. I come from going to my fridge and having breakfast. Some of them don't get breakfast. Some of them had their parents arrested the night before. Some of them parents are on drugs. Some of them are lying face down in the gutter, who knows where. And that's what I'm saying. We don't realize what there is a whole world out there, and yet we all come together in the same classroom.
A big thing
Yeah.
here is like, and I think you probably had this a lot with teaching, Roseanne, and I think that we all of us need to keep it in mind more in our sort of day-to-day lives is trying to meet people where they are. Not like
Exactly.
seeing how like part of that it
Listen.
might be listening to see how they got there or to see how we got here together. But
Yeah.
this is it. I think that oftentimes, and this is with this conversation as well, right? We get very entrenched in how we feel and our conviction, our righteousness
Yeah.
on either side, right? And so it can be very challenging to try and meet in the middle with things like this. And that's
Yeah.
an interesting relationship actually here that we see with playing out between Hugh and George. Hugh being the negotiator, Ren's father, and George being the I don't know what to call him. Like I don't want to just call him the shooter, but like the I kind of do just want to
The antagonist.
shooter. The yeah, our antagonist, but also we're we we learn more about both of them. And while I don't think it's like
I
I think there's
that
an attempt, I think an attempt is made to humanize both of them,
yeah.
to show them both in shades of gray. I don't feel like that was entirely successful because I do feel like we as the readers definitely have good guy, bad guy. We don't feel the justification so
Did,
much
did
for one as we do for the other.
anybody? I didn't read the write ups, but did they get any feedback from um, pro anti-abortionists who read the book, or
Oh yeah.
critics who were? Did they get what did
If you go on Goodreads, you'll see like there will be all kinds of people who won't have been finished the book after starting. Like this is again, sometimes topics are too emotional for
This is an emotional topic for
yeah,
sure.
no, but
yeah.
Very
are
emotional.
there are critics who or people like certain people who cannot be waived, but they
Of
certainly can
course.
be open to listen to. So, is there anybody that has a little bit more? I don't know. I don't read those kinds. I don't know how to
Well,
do.
this is, I mean, honestly, anytime I start to read a review that is clearly like either from someone who, the author can do no wrong or who the author can only do wrong,
Oh,
I mean, that to me is kind of it's a
right.
pointless exercise in reading.
Right.
Now, I think,
Agree.
sorry, for pro lifers, I think we have to ponder a question that I think she brings in is pro lifers say you're killing, is the fetus a human being? And you're killing a human being. But then she says, what about the life of the mother?
Mhm.
We always think about the life of the fetus. What about the life of the mother?
Mhm.
Like, economically, is she going to be able this? Was she got pregnant because of rape or something. And so, so she says, yes, we have to think of the mother's life. And by the way, again, you have to read the author's note. You know, this Dr. Ward is based on a real doctor, Parker, who's very, very religious Christian, and he does abortions because he feels that the compassion in his religion means he has to act on behalf of others instead of judging them. Very interesting. I found these characters more interesting than the women, actually.
Yeah. Well, there's
Yeah.
like I find, again, horse, I'm up on my high horse again. I find, and this is my politics, full disclaimer, no one needs to agree, that calling people who are anti-abortion pro-life, I find very problematic, because it's not only that the women who are choosing to terminate, it's not their lives only, it's also their concern for the life of the embryo if it turns into a child. Well, if they don't have enough to eat, if they don't have someone to care for them, if they end up in the, it's like once the baby is born, then it's, and that's, I know, like very typical uh, pro-abortion rhetoric, but it's a problem with, to me, people who are anti-abortion referring to themselves as pro-life, because it's not just about
Right.
life.
Yeah.
On one of the stations, they had where they look for their birth mother. I forget the name of the program. It was I think it still is on, but I'm not on my station anymore.
Yeah, the two people I saw that.
Yeah,
show.
it's a
Look,
girl
yeah.
who was adopted when she was
And
9 months
a
old, and a
guy.
guy who was 3 years
guy.
old. Yeah, they were put in foster care, and they literally go around around the United States, look in Canada, looking for the birth mother or whoever. And let me tell you, when you watch this program, you realize, oy, 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 oy. I mean, the reasons why they had to give up their kid, the reasons why they gave up their kid after they had him for 2 years. After you watch that program for a couple of times, you realize, oh,
Well, and on top of which too, again, like it's comes back, it circles back a little bit to what we were talking about earlier about how we never know what we would do unless we were in that
that's right.
situation, whatever situation, is that even like whatever, like we can't, it's really hard, or well, it's both really easy and really hard to judge someone else's life,
Exactly.
because
Right,
we're
exactly.
coming at it from with our lives.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely a challenge. And all of those things, all of those topics are brought up. Just going to bring it back to the book again, just real quick. That all of these things are sort of brought up in the narrative that Jodi Picoult is weaving here in A Spark of Light, which is that so many different perspectives. I mean, it's true, I think that she she has a platform, um but it's, but I also think that she's trying to, like in the writing of this as well, she's also trying to understand different people's motivations, who have different backgrounds, who have different um reasons for doing what they did as well.
Would you give this book to one of your kids to read?
I would give my children anything to read, everything to read.
And what do you think their opinions would be? I mean,
We
like,
talk,
I'm just saying, I think of
yeah,
you as a mother. If one of your kids came home and said, I got my girl pregnant, or my girlfriend pregnant, or whatever, I understand how your point of view is, but
yeah,
can you imagine? Can you
yeah.
imagine doing it?
I
Ugh.
mean, I mean, this is the thing. I have two girls, and I am
Must
very,
scare you.
no,
Doesn't
no,
scare you?
no. Um, no, I'm like, we talk about abortion already. My kids are 10 and 13. We've talked about abortion. We've talked about, we're very
If they
possibly,
came to you and if your 13-year-old came to you when she was pregnant, 13 or 14, what would you advise her to do? What would
I
you
would first
do?
ask her what she wanted to do. I would ask her for the
Okay.
situation behind it, and I would talk to her
Yeah, but if she
about,
said she wanted to keep it, would you be willing to have that?
we would have a discussion about it for
Wow.
sure.
What if she wanted to keep it at 13, 14, is she really ready to make this? Know what's ahead of her? Like,
Well,
or
so
would you say, I don't think you should? What would you
so
do?
sort of like so if
You know
so
what I
again
mean?
we're coming back to this situation of like what I think that I would do and what I would
Okay, yeah,
actually do. Okay, so what I think that I would do, I think that I would be kind of similar
right.
to the Hugh character, where, first of all, I would definitely be heartbroken that they hadn't spoken to me about it before, in terms of like getting, because we've talked about birth
Birth control.
control and
Well,
everything like that.
you have, because I had a daughter too, and I said to her for sure, if you're going to be sexually active, you better get on
Yeah.
the pill. Don't put
Um,
your head in the sand.
yeah.
Okay.
But I think that whether, like, regardless of the age of the kid, like, I mean, it would have to be a discussion, because the other thing too is that, as much as, I mean, especially like obviously if it were my 10-year-old, there's a lot of feelings. There's a lot of feelings, and I would want to be like, nope, done.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that, I mean, I think that it would be really hard not to try and guide the discussion in certain
Right,
directions.
right. I understand what you're
But
saying.
like my
Just
13
you're
year
going
old,
to do, yeah,
and like depending on what age they are and where like they would
yeah,
have to know what their options were. And I don't know. I don't know what I would do in the situation.
yeah.
Again, like
Like
especially
that's
like
it,
the
Katie. You
younger they
don't
are,
know.
I think the harder it would be. But like this is it. You imagine so many. I definitely hope. I definitely hope that I would not be dictatorial about it and saying like you have to have it or
Yeah,
you have to terminate it. I hope that I wouldn't do that.
yeah.
Interesting you
But
should
you,
say that because I have a friend who has a cousin. She had 3 kids. One was called birth control. So she was on birth control and she got pregnant. The
Mm.
other one
oh,
was tubes, IUD. No, tubes tied, still got pregnant. And the other third one was IUD. And the reason she got pregnant with the IUD is because you're not supposed to have sex a certain time before you put the IUD in and a certain time after or something like that. So she
Mm.
had 3 kids and all on birth control.
Mm.
wow.
Now
There
it's
you go.
interesting. I mean, not that she didn't. I mean, that wasn't what they're. It just so happened. And yet, when I read the book, it said even if you're on the pill, 9% of people still get pregnant.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And
Ooh.
there's the also in the book there is when Ren was holding the hand of that one girl who was pregnant in high school, and it was Ren, I think, and she said, "What can I do for you?" And she said, "Don't use Trojans."
Oh
Which
yeah, I
Yeah,
heard
is
that.
like, and
that's
it was
what
like,
I.
I mean,
Yeah,
the thing
true.
is, because this is the truth too, is that while, of course, your odds are significantly better to not get pregnant if you are using protection on various fronts, there's no 100%
That's right.
guarantee except abstinence, which is again the anti-abortion sort of perspective, is that, well, if
Yeah.
you had sex, then you had to have known that this would be a possibility. But this is I mean, there's still definitely, I think, there are definitely still gaps in our kids' education now, in terms of,
Yep.
I mean, it's better than what it was when I was a kid and probably when you guys were kids too. But I had a conversation with my older daughter a few years ago where she and her friends had been talking about how um, this came up at a doctor's. Well, I guess I shouldn't tell the story
You're on tape.
because we're recording, but I won't say how it came about, but I will say that the conversation was that um, you can't get pregnant if you haven't had your period yet. And I said, I don't know what they're teaching you in school. It was like, let's draw some pictures and let's look at this. Let's look at the mechanics of it. It's like, while again, it's not the highest probability,
But
it's,
anything.
yeah, yeah,
Can I bring up one thing that I
of
have
course.
that I find interesting with me? I don't know how everybody feels that way. I am definitely pro-abortion, but when I think of abortion, I think of early.
That's true.
4 weeks, like 10 weeks, 11 weeks, 12 weeks. If you ask me if somebody wants to have an abortion when they're 5 months pregnant or something, I don't want to go there because
They
that to
talk
me
about
is
that.
That's murder. You know what I mean? So I don't even want to go there. I'm only thinking early. So
But he
and I'm
mentioned that. He mentioned that when he did the later ones, he said he felt he saw there were vertebrae
the dog.
and I had
Yeah,
I was squirming at that.
But it's
yeah.
also, this is it.
How
It's
do
a
the doctors
challenging,
feel when it's a late term abortion? Will they still do it?
but
I mean, that
it's
to
a
me, I have,
challenging topic on so many levels, because this
yeah,
is one of the perspectives from the religious communities, or various
of
religious
course.
communities as
When
well,
is
right?
their life?
Is like,
Like,
at
yeah,
what point does life
point
begin? At
is
what
life.
point is
Yeah,
there a soul? At what
yes,
point is
exactly.
it not a collection of cells anymore? And it's, but this is, and again, there are so many factors involved. Anyway, I'm going to end it because we're at 12 o'clock.
Wow, that went fast.
And I want to thank all of you very much for sharing your perspectives on it, because it wasn't, it was a fraught topic. It is a fraught
Mhm.
topic. And I hope that um I hope that we all felt like we could say our perspectives without, like, I hope that we treated each other's perspective with respect.
Respect. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you. Nobody thought about it because everybody has their own has a right to their own
Well, because we had
opinion.
nobody that had. That's what I'm saying. I said at the beginning, I would like to have somebody on the panel
Mm.
that is pro life, and so it would have been interesting how they read the book.
But
Would be
it's
interested in
Yeah,
also
having.
that's
like, this is
somebody
it.
else here. Yeah,
It's that we're going to an nth degree with this topic, right? Because it's very emotionally fraught,
Yeah,
where in the same way that I hope that we always approach it like with respect when
of
I love
course,
a book and someone else
of
doesn't, not to be
course.
like, you're wrong.
I
right,
didn't
right.
know that. I didn't know that Rona and I always disagree. Really?
Not always, just,
We sometimes do, Roseanne. We sometimes, but I respect you, and I think you're very good when
Oh,
it
I don't
comes to.
know.
but this is it. This is the fun of discussing books, is having different opinions and being able to hear each other's opinions and to
Exactly,
consider
exactly.
those other opinions, which is,
Absolutely.
like I said, sort of like to an nth degree with
I'd like to know what is happening in Mississippi now. When this book was written, what, in 2018, around that,
yeah.
before COVID. Obviously, she never mentions COVID. So I'm just curious: is it this bad still, or is it getting worse now
Well,
that Roe versus
Roe
Wade?
v. Wade has been overturned, so I
So it's
Yeah.
even
imagine,
worse. I know that they
yeah,
were interviewing people who were moving from state to state because they can't get what they
Oh,
want.
it's terrible now. It's
I
much
know.
worse than when she wrote the. Now the women, I mean, it's the states have completely, forget it. And they're even delving into who is moving to who's getting an abortion in another state. They're trying to follow that woman to
yeah,
see where she's going in another state. Can you imagine? I mean,
yeah.
it's beyond. And the doctors are being put into jail, losing their licenses. I mean, it's
Well,
awful. It's awful.
I'm just surprised when they say that she was handcuffed to the bed. I said, "Oh my God, she's handcuffed to the bed because she's." Oh my God, I can't believe what they've done to this kid. She's
Wild.
Terrible
17
what's
years old.
going on in the States.
It's
But
wild.
that's
It is,
why I thought it was
I
the
feel
heat of the
sorry
night. Like I'm
for
thinking, like, what is it? This is like just like that. It's like archaic.
Well,
yes, yes.
everyone, I'm going to end the recording here. So we will,
Oh,
oh, no, I'll tell you, I'm not going to end the recording yet. I'm going to interrupt to say what our next book is going to be.
yeah, I want to write it down. What's the
Uh,
date
Are
of
you
our
going to
first?
help me with this thing?
I will
Yes.
help you with that thing, but first, let's finish our recording area, which is the next book is going
Yeah.
to be um The Seven Lives, or sorry, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I have a copy,
Who?
but it's
Elizabeth
out.
Taylor? Who?
No,
Elizabeth Taylor?
one sec.
Very good, Roseanne.
You
The
like
seven
that?
husbands. Yes, I think that's great. The seven
I
husbands of who?
So you could get,
The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo.
Oh, okay.
It's by
think I
Taylor
get it.
Jenkins Reid. That's going to be our
oh,
next book that we'll be talking about, and we'll be talking about it on Tuesday, August 12th.
okay. And
Is that a new book, Katie, or is it an older book?
It's from 2017.
Okay.
So are you able to get me one?
I am. But first, I'm going
Okay.
to stop the recording.
Me
So
too.
thank you everybody for coming, but you guys don't have to leave yet.
Okay.